X, you know.
No, it shouldn't do it anymore.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Difficult Conversations by Supply the Why. This is season 3, episode 5 with Chief Al Aldenberg of the Manchester Police Department. This is a gentleman that I got to know when I did a brief stint with Manchester back in 2012 through 2014. He was a patrolman then he was quickly promoted to sergeant. This was amazing. So without further ado, Chief Al Aldenberg. How you doing, Al?
I'm well, T. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity. I think it's important and yet another way to try to connect with the community, which is vitally important.
All right.
I appreciate you having me.
So, Al, you have a laundry list of credentials, so I'm not even going to attempt to go through all of them by memory. So can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us some of your qualifications that got you to this point in 9 years?
I actually originally from Massachusetts, believe it or not. I think you knew that. I grew up on the North Shore and started my career at the Essex County Sheriff's Department in Middleton up at the jail in 1995. Did that for about 3 years and then came up here to New Hampshire. Started my career as a police officer over in Goffstown, which borders Manchester. Was there from 98 till 2003. And when I came over here to Manchester. So prior to that, well, I still am, been in the Massachusetts Army National Guard for 28 years. So I've been fortunate enough to serve my community on both the police side and the military side, and kind of really devoted myself to being a citizen soldier, which I think is critically important and critically vital to our community. So I've been fortunate enough to climb through the ranks in the military. Currently hold the rank of colonel in the Massachusetts Army National Guard, and a couple deployments, Operation Noble Eagle, immediately following 9/11 down at Logan Airport. I was a company commander down there. Shortly thereafter, deployed to Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Uzbekistan in 02, 03. That's when I came back, and that's when I came over here to Manchester PD. Continued on my military career and deployed to Iraq in 2009, 2010 as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So here at the PD, I've been very fortunate. I've had people that have kind of set me up for success, if you will. You know, I like to think that I worked hard to get to where I am, but you need the help of others to get your career moving and people looking out for you. So I've been fortunate there. So here at the PD, majority of my career was in the patrol division. Did a short stint in the detective division, sex offender compliance unit. When I made sergeant, I went back to patrol for a couple of years. From there, I went to the training unit as a sergeant, made lieutenant on the back into patrol for a little bit, and then made captain. Patrol division for about 2.5 years, and then when Chief Capano retired, I was fortunate enough to become the chief.
That's unbelievable. And to people that aren't in police work and don't understand, it usually takes a lifetime to reach a level of chief. So Chief Aldenberg was a patrolman when I worked up there in 2012 for a short amount of time when you were doing the sex offender registry.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. And I remember just how daunting of a job that was.
At the peak of my career, really.
And then shortly thereafter, you became a patrol sergeant on midnights. That's usually where you go, right? You go right to midnights?
Yeah, I did 4 to 12 in midnights for about a little over 2 years as a patrol supervisor.
So, I mean, this is your ascension has happened very quickly. So since we've talked about that, can you just tell us in the military, how many people roughly do you oversee or under your command?
I recently was a brigade commander. I came out of command back in March, and that brigade had upwards to about 700 soldiers. Then I've commanded at the battalion level and the company level. So again, I've been fortunate to be in positions of leadership throughout my career and made my share of mistakes and learned from them, I like to think. But also, like to think that I made a positive impact on people that were under my command.
That's unbelievable. So clearly you're more than qualified to talk about leadership. So
I would hope so.
So let's talk about, you've been a chief for how long? What's it been, 3 months now?
It'll be 3 months on the 20th of this month.
All right, so almost 3 months.
Yep.
So how are you going to earn the trust of the people that work under your command at Manchester PD?
Be myself, to be honest with you. I think, some people struggle when they get in a position of supervision or leadership that they think they got to, you got to change a little bit, right? You got to change the way you approach things. But I've been a big believer my whole career just being an engaged leader. And a lot of people ask me that, what does that mean? To me, engaged leadership means knowing your people, having sincere and legitimate conversations with people that work for you, and taking an interest in their life, taking an interest in their career, taking an interest in their, what's going on in their personal life. This job's a grind, right? And this job can eat people up. And I think this day and age, we have to, as leaders, we need to be more tuned into how our people are doing on a daily basis.
Now, Al, can you give me an example? Like you said something I found was very interesting. You talked about taking an interest in your people's career. So how are you accomplishing that?
Well, we're starting to try to, for a long time here at Manchester PD, I'll just speak for us, but, we have to create opportunities for our people where we can. Historically, opportunities are only created when somebody retires, somebody gets promoted, or somebody resigns, and then it becomes okay, now we have an opening, now we have an opportunity. So we got to get creative. So how do we create opportunities when beyond those three circumstances I mentioned to you? So does that mean, moving people around that necessarily aren't ready to be moved out of a division, or, so that we can create opportunities for other people? That's a struggle, right? Because once people get into an assignment, they kind of hold it near and dear and protect it with their life, right? That's just police work in general. But I think there's always an avenue, or I'd have to find an avenue to get creative, to create opportunities for that 7, 8, 9, 10-year patrolman. Because if you don't nowadays, you run the risk of losing those people, that they're going to lose interest in the job. Their quality of life is going to be diminished. So we need to really, where we can, try to improve the quality of life for all our employees. Because, working 10 years on midnights or patrol there, that's a lot to ask of somebody, especially in this department, and how busy we are. So that's one way I'm trying to do it. And back to that engaged leadership, what makes your people tick? You have to recognize as leader, when are they, are they having a bad day? And recognizing that, hey, Dean's having a bad day. Well, why? And, be able to pick them up and get them through that day. It's important.
I agree.
Especially this job is becoming more and more difficult every day. That's just the reality of it. And to do this job for 25 years, it's asking a lot.
It definitely is. And I love that you're placing an emphasis on career development, especially for, like you said, like sometimes you have the patrolman, like maybe they're not quite ready to move into a specialized unit or a division at, right around year 5, and they end up then they see people that are junior to them that, let's face it, it's a talent. Sometimes you got to put talent where talent needs to go. And if someone is ready to go in year 3 versus somebody who's in year 8, I mean, you have you're like a sports general manager. You got to put the best team out on the field. So that can be tough too. You can lose people that way as well. They feel like they're being bypassed. They feel like they don't have value. So it's good that you're seeing that and you're recognizing that those officers that have been in patrol for quite some time still have value and still need to be looked after.
And I'll tell you, if your people know that you care, I firmly believe that they will do anything they ask of you, that you ask of them. And they may not like it, but if they know that you care and that you're there with them, they'll get behind you.
All right. So that being said, and we're talking about the ever-changing landscape of policing, I just want to show you a quick video of some of the lengths that some departments are going to earn the public's trust. So stand by.
These Orlando police officers are part of a new unit that's designed to make more connections with the community. The idea is to help people see officers as people, not as just the law. The team of officers traveled through Rosemont today, meeting with residents.
Before we get started, happy birthday. Thank you.
Even singing happy birthday to one woman, a good example of what Orlando police hope their new units will be doing.
We want them to see that we're coming in here and actually trying to have a positive relationship with everybody.
Officers DeCarlos Hill and Gladys Justiniano are one of OPD's neighborhood patrol units, 2 officer teams dedicated to particular parts of town, including Ivy Lane, Mercy Drive, and Cimarron. They're not here to be the primary responders when a crime happens. Instead, their goal is to get to know the people who live in the neighborhoods, build trust, let them know that they can come to police for help.
What we're trying to do is bridge that gap so that there is a relationship where it's not necessarily trouble that brings us out.
Today, they came to Faye Henderson's house, and she says she hopes trust goes both ways.
Once they get to know people out here, I think that, they will see them as being awesome citizens.
The city's paying for the neighborhood patrol units partially through a more than $1 million federal grant. OPD hopes it'll help address racial inequalities in policing.
I love that they're being more present, being more out there, helping, and just being amongst the positive relationships versus the negative.
Bob Hazen, West 2 News.
All right. So that video shows some of the links that some departments are going to, because quite frankly, and I know you know this better than I do, what we're doing now in a lot of circumstances is not working because the world's evolving, police work is evolving, criminals are evolving. So we gotta get, like you said, we gotta get creative and try new things. So that video showed what I think is kind of extreme, having, people go around singing happy birthday to residents. But hey, if that's what works in that jurisdiction, then so be it. What are some of the things that you've seen at MPD that you want to continue, and what are some of the new fresh ideas that you want to bring?
I think, the community policing philosophy, right? We have a community policing division, and we have a pretty rich history in community policing here. We do a lot of things well, but I think community policing needs to become a department-wide philosophy, right? And not just the responsibility of one division. But kind of what I'm leaning towards now, we're working on reorganize the department to make sure that we're, structured properly, so we're meeting all the needs of the community and kind of try to be a little more progressive. So what I would like to do is take what we call them area officers that are working in the community policing division. So they each have a particular area of the city. I want to take those area officers and embed them in the patrol division. So then each of those area officers has a sector of the city, coordinate with the patrol division that they're responsible for. So to address those quality of life issues, the things that we get, beat up, for lack of a better term, beat up on a daily basis about. So putting those community policing officers embedded in patrol, my hope is that the community policing philosophy becomes, prevalent through the whole police department, and they see what the community policing guys are doing. Because I'll be honest with you, the community policing guys do a ton of stuff that you just showed in that video, similar stuff, and they don't look for credit. They do it because it's the right thing to do, but kind of bring that mindset and philosophy to the entire police department, in particular the patrol division.
100%. And for those that aren't familiar with Manchester PD, you also have a police athletic league too. That's an unbelievable building. It was rebuilt since when I worked up there. Can you talk a little bit more about that building and what that brings to the community?
Yeah, I mean, COVID has really kind of put somewhat of a damper on what PAL's trying to do. But Officer Hardy, who's running PAL now, I'm sure you remember Ryan. He was out in the line of duty a few years ago.
I remember.
Yep, and we put him over at PAL about 6 to 8 months ago, and he's really got after it over there. Maintaining these programs for the kids, giving them an avenue, giving them some kind of outlet, whether it's through sports, whatever, just a place to just a place to come to that's safe, and that they're surrounded by people that care for them and that want to see them be successful in life. So PAL has been a huge success story for us, and we continue to build on it every day.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal program. And what before COVID, what were some of the things you were offering over there?
They do the wrestling, they do the judo, they do the boxing. We're bringing in outside coaches. When Officer Johnny Lavassa was over there, he was doing the boxing. Had a lot of success with some kids in the Golden Gloves. Some of these young kids, teaching them how to box the right way and how to use that skill properly, and kind of hone their energy the right way and channel it the right way into something positive. So that they're doing stuff over there. Just how to be a good citizen, and classes about that, and classes on life and how to be a better citizen.
Yeah, I saw that. Now, I believe that there's also some study type programs they have too there as well, right? Helping kids with homework. I know there was a bunch of computers and stuff over there as well.
Computers and helping them with the Zoom and making sure they're getting their classwork done. Like I said, with COVID, they got creative over there. Got a little more creative at PAL to work around COVID and not use that as an excuse not to make sure that we're staying in touch with these kids.
I always thought that was just a wonderful way to bring different elements to people's lives, where you were, obviously the martial arts programs gives you discipline, physical fitness, teaches you self-control, emotional intelligence, but you also are helping them learn life skills with, be it computer skills, giving them, a lot of kids that live in that area. That's a tough area where the MPAL is, where, maybe they don't have computer at home.
Right.
They don't have ability to write a paper at home and things like that. And walking to the library is a decent distance away from there, if I remember it correctly. It's not like right up the street.
Nope.
So
it's just another way to build trust with the kids.
100%.
And we're also, I don't know if you heard of the program, The Value of Sport.
I have not.
You get a chance to check that out. I just signed on with them to be on their board of directors. It was something that Chief Capano started. It's going to be another avenue to get into get in with these kids in the middle school, and middle school through high school, and using sports as another avenue to mentor kids, and kind of teach them life skills, teach them how to be a good citizen. So once we come out of COVID, that program is going to get up and running in the middle schools and the high schools. So if you get a chance, check that out. Value of Sport.
Value of Sport, absolutely.
Yep.
So let's hit the chat. So the chat's lighting up here, as I'm sure you can see. So we have a wonderful question from Heidi. She wants to know, how has the social climate affected the police and community relationships in Manchester? And as chief, how do you navigate that?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, we have our issues, but I think as a whole, not just Manchester and New Hampshire, but I think as New England as a whole, I think we've been pretty good compared to other parts of the country. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. One is the quality of people that we're hiring, the training, and the open dialogue that was present before all the other things you're seeing across the country. We've always been engaged with our community, had relationships that, if you will, help to head off any potential problems. Do we have great relationships with every community organization? No. So that's a constant struggle every day to make sure that we're tied in with the right community organizations and that we're holding legitimate conversations with these organizations. Whether it be NAACP, Multicultural Diversity Council we have here in the city, BLM, whatever it may be. We may not always agree, but if we're having a dialogue, at least we're talking. And I think we got to keep that going. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's just like when it seems like the world's kind of forgotten that it's okay to agree to disagree at times, as long as it's done respectfully.
Yeah.
So we don't always have to try to win. Sometimes we can just, as long as we're having an open exchange of information and thought processes, that's really what it's all about.
And having thick skin.
Yes.
And not afraid to answer hard questions. And if you don't have the answer, then we'll go find it.
Outstanding. So on that note, so we talked about earning the community's trust, which is difficult, as you talked about, because we all know you can't be all things to all people. All right. You know, you might do something for one group and now they think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Right.
And then another group might feel left out and feel as if you have slighted them. So there's always that balancing act too. But there's a third balancing act that a lot of people out there don't realize as well. In trying to engage the community and trying to make a better relationship between the PD and the community, you also have to consider your rank and file. So I'm just going to jump to a quick video that shows a chief addressing that exact issue. So stand by.
Honolulu Police Commission meeting was the first for new police chief Susan Ballard in that new role. She did a presentation explaining to the commissioners her goals, and one of them is to restore the community's trust. Here's what she told the police union during an earlier meeting.
I'm just asking two things from you. I said, one, please ask the officers to be nice. When they go to the public, even though that person is in crisis, that you have to remember that they're still a person and treat them like you would if it was your own family member. And to explain to them, don't just take a report and walk out the door. Follow up, explain to them, this is what's going to happen next. This is how it's going to be done. Because they're the ones that's going to make or break the reputation of this department.
The chief also talked about the department eventually using dash cams on the police cars, but that's in the future. Presently, they're focused on their pilot program involving body cameras on certain officers in town.
Body cameras.
We got them.
All right. How long have you had them and how are they working out for you?
A little bit over a year. It was a program that Chief Capano instituted. Cops don't like change, right, Dean?
No, we definitely don't.
Right. So there was that initial, hey, what are they trying to do here? Any PD out there that's trying to institute a body cam program, trust and transparency with your employees is critical. I think we got that. We did a pretty good job of that. Depends who you talk to, but we involved all the stakeholders. Chief Capano did from day one. Representations from both unions, which you can't involve the entire union, right? But you bring the leadership in and you make them aware what you're trying to do and involve them in the writing of the SOP. Involve them in the program from Jump Street, and that's one way to build and maintain that trust.
In the SOP, for those of you that aren't in police work, that's the
I'm sorry,
standard operating procedure. Yes.
Yep. And so I think what we found over the last little bit over a year is that we're not, it's not a tool to get police officers in trouble. All right. It's not a tool where a sergeant or a supervisor can go lock himself in a room and say, hey, I'm going to watch videos today and see if I can catch a cop doing something wrong. Chief Capano before me made that crystal clear that would not take place. And I can sit here today and tell you that that's not taking place. We're using it as a training aid. It's a great training aid. It's really good for field training officers when they have body cam video that they can share with their trainee after the call, bring it back to the station or her and say, hey, watch yourself on this video. Tell me how you think you did.
Really? How soon is it available, Chief, to them?
Live, right away.
No kidding. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep. So it's all done through the cloud. They can come back in the station, log onto the computer, or they can play it back on their on the device that's on their person, and get real-time feedback to the training. Secondly, citizen makes a complaint against an officer. He or she was rude. He was disrespectful. She did this. He did that. Instead of going through this long, drawn-out investigation, okay, just look at the video. What did the video say? What did the video look like? And then you can, through Wisman instances, we brought a complainant in and said, hey, watch the video with us. And then they find out there's a body cam video, and they're like, disregarding my complaint. Thirdly, it's building trust, right? It's building trust with the community that, hey, we're transparent as we can be. You know, what's more transparent than a body cam? I really can't tell you something more. So the officers have grown, I think, for the most part, to kind of accept it as just another tool in the toolbox that is going to tell our story, or tell the entire story. And that was kind of, Chief Capano's thought process was, listen, there's cameras everywhere, right? Everybody's got their own cell phone camera. Everybody's got a camera on their home, on their business, and it's not capturing the entire story. So let's capture the whole thing and explain what really happened. So so far, it's been very successful, in my opinion.
So let me follow up on that, because you brought up complaints. How many times have you had people file complaints, and then once they find out there's body camera footage of it, they immediately want to retract their complaint?
I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me.
You don't have to have an exact number, Chief. I didn't mean to ask it that way, but
I'm sure probably thus far in the last year, probably 10 times maybe. Right now, what you're doing now, right, is you're lessening the stress on the police officer. So now he doesn't have to go through this long, drawn out internal investigation or administrative investigation because of a complaint that somebody made against he or her. The body cam's clear. The body cam doesn't lie. And clearly the officer didn't swear at you, didn't use profanity, didn't assault you. The things that you may be alleging are not factual. But there's no arguing with the body cam.
So in that spirit, do you let the officer know, like, hey, this frivolous complaint came in against you, and the body cam, as soon as we mentioned the body cam or showed the body cam video, that it kind of went away? Because I'd feel like I know if that was me getting a complaint against me, and then I knew that it was frivolous, and then you were able to show them the body cam footage, or simply tell them that, hey, there's footage of this, and people immediately change their mind about filing a complaint, that's got to be a feel-good moment for the troops.
It is, and a lot of times they don't even know that somebody made a complaint against them, right? If we handle it at the supervisor level and at my level, and the officer didn't do anything wrong, really, why add more stress to his or her life? We handled it, we documented it, we do our proper procedure and advise the complainant that their complaint's unfounded, and we move on.
So, Chief, I just got to ask you this. So we have a question here. Have you talked about the ability to alter body camera footage in any way? Have you seen that happen? Is that a concern of the rank and file?
I'm not sure how you would alter it.
Or the public, the people, because people come up with crazy notions about the things that we are able to do. Has anybody mentioned that as being a potential problem, that, hey, you guys are altering the video, or you guys might alter this?
Not at all. I mean, the video goes into the cloud once it's downloaded, and I'm not sure how you would even have the ability to alter the video.
All right, fair enough.
Yep.
So we have another question. The chat is lighting up. How do you let your officers know that you offer them, that they come to leadership if they are having one of those bad days? There can be a bit of mistrust and a stigma if you say, hey, listen, I could use a little help. So how do you what processes do you have in place?
I can tell you from Manchester PD, since 2012, we've had a critical incident stress management team that's been in place. It's currently comprised of 25 sworn officers from the rank of officer up to lieutenant. And we also have 3 civilians that are part of that team. We also have a team psychologist, a team clinician, 3 team clinicians from the vet center, as well as from VFR, which is Veterans and First Responders. So since 2012, the PD's had that team in place. It's, they do a lot of things, but one of the main things they'll do is anytime we have a critical incident, we do a critical incident debrief that, the chief or the assistant chief or the captains aren't involved in, run by Detective Breton. And We'll get outside resources that will come in and hold the debrief and give officers the opportunity to speak openly and freely about what they saw or what they witnessed, whether it be a homicide, a fatal motor vehicle accident, an investigation involving the death of a child, the things that wear on their minds and their bodies, and give them the help that they need. So that's one way that we're building trust. So what I'm going to be doing here in the very near future to piggyback off of that is I'm going to create call it what you want, a wellness or a mental health office that's going to fall directly under me as the chief of police. And that's all they're going to do on a full-time basis. And offer more training, offer more resources. Another, I don't want to say the word forgotten, but a lot of times we forget about the families, our families.
Let's call it overlooked.
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 All right.
Mm-hmm.
In creating a family support group for our families out there that, the loved ones of our police officers that have to burden just as much as we do, right? They're offering a sounding board when a police officer comes home at 2 a.m. or 6 o'clock at night and opens up to his loved one, her loved one, about what they saw or, something heinous that they witnessed. We're seeing it. I got to tell you, Dean, if any police sergeant, we can't be afraid as police leaders to talk about mental health. We can't be afraid as police leaders to talk about suicide. If we are, then we're ignoring the problem. And it's real, right? I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the number of suicides in first responder community it's too high. One is too many. And I can tell you that having experienced suicide in the military, it will cripple an organization. No matter how big or how small your department is, if you have one suicide, it's one too many, and it's the impacts are going to be far-reaching, and they'll be felt for a long time.
Yeah, it definitely has a huge ripple effect throughout an agency. There's no doubt about it. So we have another question. So, Chief, can you tell us about the Acer program? So what exactly is that, and how is that working out for MPD?
That's a program we've been involved in for, correct me, I'm going to remember the acronym. It's basically dealing with children that are exposed to adverse incidences within their home, that they are witness to domestic violence, whatever they may have been witness to. That we have a program where the officer goes to the call. There's children involved. He documents that in his or her report. The officer fills out a form, and it goes to the juvenile division when they do their follow-up and they recognize that there's a child involved, and we conduct outreach to make sure that if programs are a very serious crime or any type of adverse behavior in their home, that the police are just offering another resource to help get that child better or children better.
Is this above and beyond the normal, DCF help?
Yes.
Children, families help. This is above and beyond that, or does it partner with DCF?
It's a partnership, and we've had a lot of success with the program through a federal grant that we're able to keep the program going.
Yeah. Oh, and for those of you that don't know, DCF is Division of Children and Families. That is an agency that every police department, I'm sure some fire departments, and even medical professionals that you partner with when you have these unfortunate circumstances that involve children. So if you didn't know what that was, that's what that is. So again, we're about midway through. If you're just tuning in, this is Difficult Conversations by Supply with Chief Al Aldenberg of Manchester PD. So we have more questions about body cams. It seems to be that's what people want to talk about here. So I'm going to summarize this. This was a two-part message. Basically, this person is Ann's asking, why would any officer not want to have body cams? What are some of the reasons that somebody wouldn't want it?
That came up. why do I need a body cam? I'm always doing the right thing. No, you probably are, right? But to, that was kind of a struggle. Just trying to convince the officers that this body cam is here to help you. Nothing more, nothing less. There's nothing nefarious trying to behind the scenes. We're not trying to, catch you doing something wrong. Hey, maybe we catch you doing something right. There's a good story, right?
We're not good at the glass half full, Chief. As police
No,
officers, that's not really what we do well.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole just building trust with the body cam program. Keep going back to that, but it's critical and having buy-in from everybody. And you're always going to have your naysayers, right? Every job has them. Every profession has them. Not just police work, but those people are some of my initial naysayers are starting to come around because they're starting to see the benefits of it when they go to court, when they're testifying, and hey, play the video, right? Let the video speak for my testimony.
And that's part of what I talked about earlier, where I said, depending on like you talked about, you got to know your officer. Depending on the personality of the officer, some people, like I know me personally, I would want to get called in and I'd want you to call me and say, hey, Dean, this person complained on you. We showed them the video of you doing something right, and they scurried away into the night, never to be heard from again. Like that would be a feel-good moment for me because that. So you talk about building trust and building legitimacy. Like you coming to me with that would help me trust the process a little bit more.
Yep, and we have those discussions sometimes with the guys, and hey, just so you know, I did it when I was a patrol captain. Guy came in, made this long complaint about an officer, and he did this, he did that. So I went and watched a 45-minute video, and could not have been further from the truth. So I called the officer in. I said, hey, I got this complaint. I want to let you know I watched the video, and I said you could have been more professional. And he kind of looked at me, gave me a thumbs up, and said, hey, you know what? I appreciate it, boss. Somebody's looking out. Right?
I'm telling you that is something that as somebody that I guess you'd call me lower management now, as a sergeant, I'm just basically a glorified patrolman. So I'm definitely towards the bottom run as opposed to the top. That would mean the world to me, knowing that that you were willing to present this to whoever was issuing the false complaint, and B, that you stood shoulder to shoulder with me when I did the right thing, and you were able to prove it. So we have a body cam field training question. So Chief, is there an expectation from your field training supervisor for your field training officers to compile essentially a highlight reel before an officer in training is released for their solo career?
No. Like I said before, they just use it as a training tool as the field training program's going along. We will, from time to time, our training unit will identify a very good example of a body cam where officers use exercise proper tactics or interacted very well with a member of the community on a call for service, and with the officer's permission, we may say, hey, do you mind if we show that in roll call as an example? So we'll do that, but we don't, there's no highlight reel or low light reel, if you will. You never want to use the body cam as a means to embarrass your employees, because you're just going to lose that trust.
Fair enough. And even your trainees. So for example, let me ask that same question a different way. So in a field trainee, trainer scenario, the field trainer says, hey, listen, this person's not cutting the mustard. Would the body cam footage help to support? Has it been used to help support this person when they say, hey, listen, I don't know if we want to, hire a 20-year problem here, or maybe it's time to cut ties. Is it possible that it would be used for that?
We haven't yet. Usually there's other, we're already having deeper conversations about somebody that's struggling in the field training program before we even have to, go to the videos as a means of evidence, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, somebody, he or she knows that I'm not going to cut it. They may not cut it here. They may, cut it somewhere else, but we have those conversations sometimes too much. But I can tell you that sometimes when a trainee sees a body cam and he realizes that was me, they don't even believe they're watching themselves.
Mhm.
So it's helped to kind of get them on a path to being good, if you will.
Absolutely. And just to double down on that, I mean, I've worked at several different departments. Manchester is a hard place to work. It's hard. I mean, the call volume is bananas. I remember leaving roll call during a 4 to 12 shift in the summer, and it'd be double-digit calls stacked, waiting for you to come out of roll call and to handle.
Yep.
There'd be calls that you couldn't get to in an 8-hour shift. It was so busy.
No, it's our young officers, they're running hard every night, every day, every midnight shift. They come in at the end of the night and they look like they just boxed for 12 rounds. And that gets me back to my point of keeping an eye on their physical and mental well-being, because we ask a lot of them day in and day out. And it's not getting any better.
Yeah, it's hard. It sounds to me like you've increased your staffing level. We talked a little bit about that before we went live. So you have roughly how many people now working? How many sworn?
I'm authorized 257. Come July 1, I'll be authorized 267. But right now, I currently have 16 vacancies.
16 vacancies.
Mhm.
So that still puts you way ahead of where MPD was when I worked there. I want to say we were somewhere around 215, 220.
Yep. It was probably about 227 when you were here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
so the prior chief gets and our elected officials get credit for funding us for an additional 30 people over 3 years. When you hear about defunding and decreasing police budgets, I can tell you that's not happening here, and that's because of the men and women that work here.
So that's a perfect segue to what I wanted to talk about next. Is the whole kind of we want everybody to do more with less mentality that seems to be running rampant in police work everywhere. So how are you dealing with that? Where maybe, and again, I don't know if this happened or not, but maybe the city's crying poor mouth. We can't give people proper raises. We can't afford this. We can't afford that program you want to do. Like, how are you balancing that with being able to provide the services that people are expecting?
Yeah, well, that's a struggle every day, right? Because everything becomes a police problem, right? So we're trying to get creative in what we respond to as a police department and what we don't respond to, and trying to weed out the things that are just not a police matter. That's always a struggle, and finding that balance of, okay, this is what the police should be doing, and this is what the police shouldn't be doing. A perfect example is 4 or 5 years ago here in the city, everybody thought that the homeless problem was strictly a police problem. And credit to the prior chiefs. Yeah, remember? Right?
I do remember. I was in 234, so I remember it well.
Yeah, and credit to prior chiefs, to me, and the current mayor, and kind of changing the narrative that, hey, homeless is a community-wide problem. The police aren't going to solve this. Fire's not going to solve it. We all have to work collaboratively. And yeah, the PD has a role, but I've said this before. My community policing division has essentially become like a homeless task force, and it takes them away from the other areas of the city that need our attention just as much and deserve it. More importantly, just as much, and expect it, as they probably should. And we're kind of changing that narrative on homeless is one of the examples. And we're fortunate that we have some elected officials that understand that and see that. Very important.
Fair enough. So we have a comment from a name that is definitely going to be familiar to you, a recent retiree from MPD. So sometimes it's the belief that the officer will be the second guest or that it will be used as a tool to discipline. In reality, it has many benefits, but the stigma attached to it clouds the reality.
Somebody should hire that guy and bring him back.
So we did touch upon that already about sometimes, it turns into the boogeyman in the closet. You think there's this big problem that's going to, all this negativity attached to it. Because let's face it, if you're a police officer, especially if you have time on, you basically live at least half your life in a world of negativity. We deal with people in the worst days of their lives.
Mhm.
We deal with people in crisis. We deal with people that don't like us.
Yep.
So when you live at least half your life in that state of mind, and you're in that almost like that fight or flight mindset, you do develop a little bit of paranoia, and you do it's almost like a weird conspiracy theory thing that happens sometimes.
Oh yeah, we had that here when we brought the body cams in. There was a conspiracy, or like I said before, that they're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. And you know what? If I was a young patrolman and you were telling me I needed a body cam, I probably would have reacted the same way, right? And to say that you wouldn't, you're not telling the truth. You're not. You'd be sitting at the back of the room like, oh, they want me to put this camera on. What's next? And that's real, right? So as leaders, you got to recognize that that's real. And I've heard people say that, well, if they don't like it, they can leave. Well, all right. Is that really the solution? That as leaders, we're going to say, okay, if you don't like it, just leave and go work somewhere else? No. If you're taking that stance, you probably shouldn't be in a position of leadership. You really shouldn't.
I love that. I love that you see it that way. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we've all been there. We've all been at the at the bottom rung, if you will. The least common denominator is the patrolman. But if you don't have a mindset that your patrol division is your number one priority in the police department, no matter how big or small you are not going to be successful as a chief. You're just not, because they'll turn on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just
recognize it and do something about it.
Well, I certainly hope that some of your rank and file are listening to this, because that was a little gold nugget that you dropped right there, that you're even willing to put yourself back in the place of a patrolman. Because again, it wasn't that long ago for you. 9 years ago, when I first started there in 2012, you were a patrolman.
Yep.
So we're not talking about a million years ago, like some people that have been in police work for 40 years. So it's probably easier. That's a benefit for your rank and file, that they know that you've been there, and clearly you haven't forgotten what it was like to be in that position. So that's fantastic. Kudos to you for that. So we do have a question about how do you manage a person with mental health or substance use crisis?
We do it through the team that I mentioned. But where you got to be very, in that team, what they can tell me as the chief of police is very limited due to confidentiality. I don't violate that. The second we violate that confidentiality, this team is going to lose complete trust, and I won't have people coming forward. I'll be honest with you, Dean. I don't care if I have 30 people lined outside my office that says I need help. Then so be it, right? Mm-hmm. Then we'll get them help. That means 30 people are willing to come forward because they trust their leadership. They trust the team that's in place to help them. And they, for lack of a better term, are waving the white flag. They need some help. Come on, 20 years ago when I came on the job, and hate to sound like the old guy in the room, but you didn't dare say anything, right?
Made you weak. You're weak if you spoke up.
You're weak. What's wrong with you? And that's just, those days have passed. And I hear people say, just tell them to suck it up. They'll be fine. Mm-hmm. No, some people aren't going to be fine. And if they need help, get them the help they need. Where we got to really make sure that when they go through the process and they've raised their hand and said, I need help, and now we're putting them through the, sometimes the abyss of workman's comp, because that's a process, right? Mm-hmm. That can be a painful process. But if that process becomes bogged down in too much bureaucracy, and you're overwhelming the person, all right, and you're making it harder and harder every day for them to get help, they got to lose faith in the system. That's one thing I've been paying attention to lately as to how these things are progressing through the system.
So Chief, let me ask you. So we're down to 10 minutes left because, like I promised you, we're going to blink and we're going to be at 50 minutes, and here we are. Let me ask you that same question, but for people not at the PD. So when you deal with people on the street that are in mental health crisis,
we have, we're fortunate here at a few years ago, we started a relationship with the Greater Mental Health Center of Manchester. I'm also a board member. And we started this program with critical incident team, critical incident training, where we put officers through 40 hours of training to become certified as to intervene in critical instances where people are suffering from mental health crisis or some type of substance abuse crisis. Sometimes they go hand in hand. A lot of times they do. Kind of what piggybacked off that was we started this mobile crisis response team, where these officers that are certified as CIT officers 7 days a week.
And CIT stands for what, Chief? For people that aren't familiar?
Crisis intervention team.
Yep.
So now we have this mobile crisis response team, which we've been running for about probably 4 or 5 years now, which is done through our partnership with the Mental Health Center. And so a call for service may come in, particular address, subject to the mental health crisis. This team, along with an officer and a clinician and a peer coach or peer-to-peer from the health center, will actually respond out to the address. So now I'm taking that root car, if you will, away from that call and inserting the professionals into the call and freeing up my root car to go do other stuff. And then this team goes and interacts directly with the person and hopefully gets him or her the help they need. In the days of, you probably remember when you were here, the days of, you go to that type of call and, hey, get him in an ambulance, get her in an ambulance, and just send them off to the hospital. And we're not really doing the person any good, because not everybody needs to go to a hospital. That's been a very successful program. The last time I checked, they had over a 90% diversion rate from the ERs.
Wow.
And getting people the help they need as opposed to going to an emergency room.
That's fantastic that you're doing that. And how long's that been in place?
That mobile crisis response team, probably about 4 years.
4 years now. Okay.
Maybe 5. Yep. Great partnership with the Mental Health Center of Manchester.
And that's 24/7, right? That's not like, hey, Monday through Friday bankers hours, right? It's when they come out the times when you really need them to be there.
Yep. The team will come out 24/7, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. We call them. They'll come to the PD if we have somebody here. They'll go anywhere, any time of the day. Really, fairly dedicated and devoted people.
That's a great program that you have in place there. So we're down to about 6 minutes left. So let's talk about something pleasant. So we have a great question from Heather. Heather wants to know, or says that Manchester often gets a bad rap, but we all know how great the Queen City is. What's your favorite thing about the city of Manchester?
The people, the diversity within our community, and just the kind of the ability to always persevere, and the ability of our community to come together when things are not well, or things are going, not in a positive direction, but we find a way to bring the right people together to solve a problem.
Outstanding. Now, I want to answer that question too. All right. Again, being an MPD alumni there. So one of my favorite things about Manchester, I got to say a couple things. Definitely the people, like the diversity and how you can be in one neighborhood and you'll have $1 million homes. A lot of people don't realize that Manchester still has $1 million homes and has that section. But then you can be in the inner city a couple minutes later and you're dealing with all kinds of great people that maybe they're down on their luck. Or maybe they are just in a rough circumstance, like I brought up Unit 234 a little bit earlier. That's a route in Manchester PD that's assigned to like the inner city part of the city. I don't know if you still have that or not, but it was when I was there.
We do.
And part of our duties was we were assigned to the soup kitchen for an hour every shift. It was mandatory. There's no wiggle room with that at all. In fact, we got in trouble for making, like, we made an arrest once, and we got in trouble for making an arrest when we were supposed to be at the soup kitchen, a felony arrest. But that's how serious that it was taken there. So I love that aspect of it. I loved interacting with all the different people. And again, when you're out of your radio car and you're on a bike or you're on a walk and talk, it just allows people in the community to see you in a completely different way. It allows you to see them in a different way, and you get to see the humanity in one another that way.
I'm bringing the bikes back, actually.
Are you really? It's an amazing tool for police work. You know, it's great. It's great for, you know, a number of tactical deployments that I won't necessarily talk about now, but it also is great for community policing too. It just naturally brings out community policing if you have people that are accessible and not in a radio car going from call to call all shift long. And of course the food too. There's a lot of great places to eat in Manchester too.
There are. Downtown's you can get anything, just about anything you want to eat downtown.
So, and every time we're in New Hampshire, we always make sure that we stop by and you know, either on the way up or the way down through Manchester and grab some food. So, Chief, it's been awesome having you on here. Can you talk a little bit about what you want to, you know, really quick about what you're looking to do in your next year or so, and how can people follow you, and how can people just check in with you to see?
Yeah, I'm learning to navigate my way around the social media. I'm not very social media savvy, I'll admit that. So, you know, I am on Twitter, and the department has a Facebook page. You can follow us on there, manchesternh.gov, or Manchester, New Hampshire Police on Facebook. And really the next year for me is about, you know, like I said before, reorganize the department in a way that we're best serving the community, and best serving not only the needs of the community, but the needs of our officers, and focusing on, you know, investing on our people, building those enduring relationships with our community. I got a couple of projects going on right now that's going to hopefully, you know, build better partnerships in the community and make sure we're hitting all the right people and the right organizations, and that we're doing it in a organized manner. That's something we're working on now. I just want to be happy at doing this job. To be honest with you, I want to leave this department better than how I found it, and I think every leader needs to do that. We're not perfect. I'll be the first to admit that, but we're pretty good. We do a lot of things very, very well, and we're invested in this community, and we're looking to make you know, Manchester an attractive place for people to come to live, to work, and to you know, enjoy the entertainment. Well said.
Well said, folks. If you have any questions for Chief Aldenberg, I will put the best email to get in touch with him in the comments at the conclusion of this. Again, this is Difficult Conversations by Supply the Why. We are reaching out to anybody out there that wants to have a difficult conversation and wants to gain a better understanding of a given circumstance. So please like, share, and subscribe. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we also have podcasts on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Chief, one last question, really important question, probably the most important one of the night.
I know it's coming.
So I hear there's a big football game tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who do you like, Ohio State or Alabama?
I got to be loyal. I mean, we have a guy who used to work here. His brother's the head coach of Ohio State. So out of respect for him and the Day family, we're going to go with Ohio State.
You're going to go Ohio State?
Yeah.
All right, Ohio State. I'm going to roll with you, and I'm going to go with Ohio State with the upset tonight. I'm going to go 36-28, Ohio State. You had it here first.
21-3.
21-3, low scoring defensive battle.
I don't know anything about college football. I'm going to go 21-3.
So you got a lot of thanks here. So again, folks, thanks for tuning in. This has been Difficult Conversations by Supply the Why. Every Monday night, we're going to have new guests on. We're going to hit fresh new topics. Please like, subscribe, and share. We're only getting started. So have a great night, everybody. #Supply the Why.